My beloved child. Do not move past this moment too quickly. Let your hand become still. Let the noise around you fade for just a little while, because this fictional message has found the part of your heart that has been trying to remain strong while carrying questions no one else can see. Something has shifted in the unseen landscape of this story, and before you hear how deeply it has affected the one connected to your heart, you must understand this: the silence you have been living through has not been empty. There has been emotion inside it. There has been remembrance inside it. There has been a truth growing quietly beneath it, waiting for the moment when it could no longer remain hidden. Tonight, in the imagined world unfolding before you, your soulmate is crying because they believe they have finally lost you forever. Not temporarily. Not for a few days. Not until anger fades or circumstances change. They believe the door has closed completely. They believe the last thread between you has slipped from their hands. And what hurts them most is not merely the distance. It is the realization that they may have understood your value only after your heart became too tired to keep proving it. Stay here. There is more behind their tears than regret, and the deepest part has not yet been revealed. Picture a quiet room after midnight. The lights are low. The world outside has settled into that strange stillness that makes every thought sound louder. A phone rests face down nearby, untouched for several minutes, yet somehow controlling the entire atmosphere. The person you love is sitting at the edge of a bed, or perhaps beside a window, staring into darkness as if the darkness might answer a question they are afraid to speak aloud. Their breathing is uneven. Their hands are restless. They keep telling themselves they should sleep, but sleep will not come because memory has entered the room. It arrived without knocking. It brought your voice with it. Your smile. Your patience. The way you noticed small changes in them before anyone else did. The way you tried to understand what they could not explain. The way you stayed gentle even when their confusion made them difficult to love. And now those memories do not feel comforting. They feel like evidence. Evidence of everything they had. Evidence of everything they failed to protect. Evidence of a love they assumed would remain available no matter how long they hesitated, how deeply they hid, or how often they let fear speak in place of truth. They did not expect this night to become emotional. They did not plan to revisit the past. They may have gone through the day appearing normal. They may have laughed at the right moments, answered messages, completed responsibilities, and convinced everyone around them that nothing was wrong. But beneath that ordinary surface, something had already begun to crack. A small reminder found them. Perhaps it was a song they had not heard in months. Perhaps it was a place that carried your energy. Perhaps someone repeated a phrase you once used. Perhaps they saw a person turn towards someone they loved with tenderness, and for one sudden second, they remembered how you used to look at them. Whatever opened the door seemed insignificant at first. But it was enough. One memory became another. One thought became a flood. And before they could stop it, they were standing inside the truth they had avoided for far too long. They miss you. Not casually. Not only when they are lonely. Not only when life becomes difficult. They miss the feeling of being known by you. They miss the quiet safety your presence created. They miss the version of themselves that existed when they believed you were still near enough to reach. They miss how the world felt before they began imagining that you might truly be gone. And yet, my child, their tears are not only about missing you. They are crying because they are beginning to understand what your silence means. For a long time, they may have interpreted your patience as permanence. They believed you would always leave a light on for them. They believed your heart would continue waiting while they worked through every fear, every doubt, every wound, and every excuse. They mistook your deep love for endless tolerance. But love can be deep and still become tired. Love can forgive and still require distance. Love can remain true and still stop chasing what refuses to meet it. Your soulmate is now feeling the weight of that realization. They are asking themselves questions they should have asked much earlier. How many times did you hide your pain to protect them from feeling guilty? How often did you accept half answers because you did not want to pressure them? How many nights did you wonder whether you mattered while they assumed you already knew? How many times did you nearly walk away but chose to remain because some quiet part of you still believed in what the connection could become? They are seeing it now. The moments you became quiet after being disappointed. The messages that grew shorter because your heart was exhausted. The pauses in your voice. The change in your energy. The way you stopped asking certain questions because you had grown tired of receiving uncertain answers. They remember all of it. And the memories are arranging themselves into a pattern they can no longer deny. You were not becoming cold. You were protecting what remained of your heart. You were not trying to punish them. You were learning how to survive the absence of clarity. You were not giving up suddenly. You had been slowly breaking for longer than they realized. That truth has reached them tonight, and it hurts more than they expected. A tear falls before they even recognize they are crying. Then another. They wipe their face quickly, almost embarrassed, though no one is watching. But the room seems to hold your memory so vividly that they feel seen anyway. They look toward the phone again. They think about reaching for it. They imagine your name appearing on the screen. They imagine writing everything they should have said when your heart was still close enough to hear it without fear. I was scared. I cared more than I showed. I thought I had more time. I never wanted you to feel unimportant. I did not know how to love you without confronting the parts of myself I had spent years avoiding. The words form in their mind. But they do not send them. Not yet. Because another fear rises. What if you no longer want to hear them? What if you have finally found peace without them? What if contacting you would reopen a wound you have worked hard to close? What if your silence is not a test, but an answer? That final question breaks something open. They lower their head. Their shoulders begin to shake. And for the first time, they allow themselves to feel the possibility that they may not be able to undo what their hesitation caused. My child, you may be wondering why this fictional message is reaching you now. You may ask why you should care about tears you cannot see or regret you cannot confirm. The answer is not that you must return to someone who hurt you. It is not that you should abandon your boundaries. It is not that your healing depends upon another person finally recognizing your worth. No. The deeper purpose is to remind you that love is not made meaningless simply because someone understood it too late. What you gave was real within this story. The tenderness was real. The loyalty was real. The prayers you whispered were real. The hope you carried was real. The fact that someone failed to honor those things properly does not diminish their value. And in the unseen imagery of this narration, heaven is not showing you their tears so you will feel powerful over their pain. You are being shown their tears so you will understand that your love left a mark. You were not invisible. You were not forgettable. You were not foolish for caring. Something within them changed because you existed in their life. Even if they resisted it. Even if they ran from it. Even if they tried to bury it beneath distraction, pride, or silence. You became part of their emotional awakening. And that awakening has now begun. But the strangest part is this: beneath their grief, something unexpected is rising. A feeling they do not understand. A fragile joy. It appears for only a second at first, almost hidden beneath sorrow. They remember one moment with you when everything felt simple. Perhaps you were laughing together. Perhaps nothing extraordinary was happening. Perhaps the beauty of it came from how ordinary it was. The way sunlight fell across your face. The way your voice softened when you spoke to them. The way time seemed to slow because neither of you wanted the moment to end. The memory causes them to smile through tears. And that smile frightens them. How can joy exist beside grief? How can love feel warm while loss feels so cold? How can remembering you hurt so deeply and still make them grateful that they knew you at all? This contradiction becomes the beginning of something larger. For the first time, they do not only think about getting you back. They begin thinking about becoming someone who would no longer take your heart for granted. There is a difference. One desire comes from fear of loss. The other comes from transformation. For a long time, they may have wanted closeness without accountability. They may have wanted your comfort without exposing their vulnerability. They may have wanted the connection while remaining protected from the risks that true intimacy demands. But now the pain is teaching them what convenience never could. Love is not a place where one person waits while the other decides whether to be brave. Love is a meeting. A revealing. A choice made repeatedly in honesty. And they are beginning to see that they cannot ask for another chance while remaining the same person who wasted the first one. This is where the hidden movement begins. Not outside them. Inside them. A wall they built years before meeting you has started to crack. You did not build that wall. It came from old disappointments, past betrayals, family wounds, promises that were broken, affection that was withheld, or moments when they learned that vulnerability could be used against them. They carried those fears into the connection with you. At first, they did not recognize what they were doing. When you came close, they felt something beautiful, but beauty made them afraid because beauty created something to lose. So they pulled back. When you offered reassurance, they questioned it. When you asked for clarity, they delayed. When you expressed love, they felt overwhelmed by how much it asked them to confront within themselves. They may have called it confusion. They may have said the timing was wrong. They may have claimed they needed space. But beneath every explanation was a frightened heart asking a question it did not know how to say. What happens if I let this person love me and then they leave? And because they were terrified that you might one day leave, they behaved in ways that slowly pushed you away. This is the painful irony now unfolding before them. They created the ending they feared. Not because they wanted to lose you, but because fear can make people protect themselves from love until no love feels safe enough to remain. Tonight, they finally see the pattern. They see how every unanswered message created distance. They see how every avoided conversation made you feel alone. They see how every moment of emotional withdrawal taught your heart not to depend on them. They see how you slowly stopped sharing the deepest parts of yourself because you no longer knew whether they would handle those parts gently. And what breaks them is the realization that you once trusted them with things you did not easily give to others. You let them see the tenderness beneath your strength. You showed them the fears behind your smile. You offered them access to a private world within you. They thought that access would always remain open. Now they are standing outside it. The door is closed. Perhaps not locked forever. But closed. And they do not know whether they still have the right to knock. Stay with this moment, my child, because the next truth is even deeper. Your soulmate is not only grieving the loss of you. They are grieving the future they imagined but never had the courage to admit they wanted. They see images now. A morning beside you. A home filled with your voice. Small disagreements followed by honest repair. Ordinary errands becoming meaningful because you were there. Celebrations. Difficult seasons. Quiet meals. Long drives. The comfort of knowing someone was waiting for them. They may never have told you how often they imagined those things. They may have acted uncertain while privately creating entire futures in their mind. Sometimes the people who seem most detached are hiding the most vivid dreams. They feared that speaking those dreams aloud would give them power. So they kept them private. But silence did not erase the dreams. It only prevented you from knowing they existed. Now those imagined scenes feel like a life they may have lost before it ever began. This is why the tears continue. They are mourning memories that happened and possibilities that did not. They are grieving your absence and their own delay. They are thinking of all the times life placed an opening before them, and they chose caution. All the moments they could have told you the truth. All the moments they nearly did. Perhaps there was a night when they typed a long message and erased it. Perhaps there was a conversation when they wanted to say, "I love you," but replaced it with something smaller. Perhaps they watched you walk away and almost called your name. Perhaps they felt the distance growing but convinced themselves there would be another chance. Tonight, those unfinished moments return. Each one seems to ask, "Why did you wait?" They have no answer. Only tears. But hidden within this emotional collapse is the beginning of honesty. Not the polished honesty people use when they want to appear mature. The raw kind. The kind that arrives when every excuse has lost its power. They can no longer blame circumstances for everything. They can no longer pretend you demanded too much. They can no longer tell themselves that the connection was not important. Their body is revealing what their pride tried to conceal. Their tears are speaking. Their sleeplessness is speaking. The ache in their chest is speaking. And every part of them is repeating the truth they avoided. You loved someone who deserved to know. That realization changes the atmosphere. The room still feels heavy, but the heaviness is no longer empty despair. It is becoming a threshold. A person can cry because they feel helpless, or they can cry because an old version of themselves is beginning to dissolve. Your soulmate is standing between those two possibilities. One path leads deeper into regret. The other requires courage. They do not yet know which one they will choose. That uncertainty is part of what makes this night so important. They rise from where they have been sitting. They move slowly, as though the air itself has become thick with memory. They walk toward a mirror. For several seconds, they cannot look directly at their own reflection. When they finally do, they do not see the face they show the world. They see the person who disappointed you. They see the one who held back affection. The one who made promises through actions and then contradicted those promises with distance. The one who expected you to interpret silence as love. The one who wanted to be understood while offering you so little explanation. Their eyes fill again. But then something else happens. They see pain in their own face. Not as an excuse. As a truth. They begin recognizing that they were not cruel because you were unworthy. They were emotionally unprepared because they had never learned how to receive love without expecting harm. This recognition does not erase responsibility. It deepens it. For the first time, they understand that healing is not merely about feeling better. It is about becoming safer for the people they love. And you, my child, became the mirror that revealed where they were not safe. Your honesty exposed their avoidance. Your loyalty exposed their inconsistency. Your softness exposed their defenses. Your willingness to stay exposed how often they disappeared. This is why your presence transformed them even when they resisted that transformation. You showed them a kind of connection they had secretly wanted but did not know how to sustain. Now that you are distant, they finally understand the gift. But do not mistake their pain for your instruction. You are not being told to rescue them from the lesson your absence is teaching. You are not responsible for interrupting their awakening because watching someone struggle makes your compassionate heart uncomfortable. There are moments when love expresses itself by remaining. There are also moments when love expresses itself by stepping back. Your distance may be the first boundary strong enough to make them face themselves. Had you continued explaining, they might have continued delaying. Had you continued forgiving without change, they might have continued believing there would always be another opportunity. Had you continued carrying the emotional weight for both of you, they might never have recognized how much you were holding. Your silence created space. And in that space, they can finally hear the truth. This does not mean you must remain silent forever. It means you should not speak before your heart is ready. There is a sacred difference between responding from love and responding from fear. Fear says, I must act now or I will lose them. Love says, what is meant to heal will not require me to betray myself. Remember that. Because even as your soulmate cries, your own heart is being asked a question. Have you learned to value your peace as much as you valued the connection? Have you learned that compassion does not require self-abandonment? Have you learned that being chosen late does not mean you must immediately forget how it felt to be ignored? Have you learned that love can be forgiven while trust is rebuilt slowly? These questions are not punishments. They are protection. There was a time when you may have accepted words as proof because you wanted so deeply to believe them. There was a time when a single message could restore all your hope, even if nothing had truly changed. There was a time when their smallest effort felt enormous because you had grown accustomed to receiving so little. But you are not standing in that same place now. Something in you has matured through pain. You have learned to observe consistency. You have learned that apologies matter, but patterns reveal more. You have learned that longing can make potential look like reality. You have learned that loving someone does not automatically make them capable of loving you well. And though these lessons hurt, they have made your heart wiser. That wisdom will matter soon. Because in this fictional night, your soulmate is moving closer to a decision. They return to the phone. This time, they pick it up. The screen lights their face. Your conversation is still there. Perhaps they have read it many times. Perhaps they avoided opening it because they knew what memories waited inside. Their thumb hovers over your name. They scroll upward. They see old exchanges. At first, there are smiles. Warmth. Playfulness. A rhythm between you that once felt effortless. Then the tone changes. Questions appear. Misunderstandings. Long pauses. Your attempts to explain. Their short answers. Your hope. Their uncertainty. Your patience. Their retreat. They can see the relationship changing in written form. A story told through timestamps. The gap between messages grows longer. Your words become more careful. Your affection becomes less certain. You stop reaching first. You stop asking them to clarify. You stop trying to convince them that what you shared was worth saving. They reach the final conversation. Maybe there was no dramatic goodbye. Sometimes the most painful endings are quiet. A simple sentence. A final truth. A calm message written after too many emotional storms. Perhaps you said you needed peace. Perhaps you said you could not continue living in confusion. Perhaps you wished them well even as your heart broke. They read those words differently now. When you first sent them, they may have thought you were emotional. They may have assumed you would return. They may have believed your boundary would soften once you missed them. But tonight they hear the exhaustion beneath your calmness. They recognize that your final words were not written to manipulate them. They were written by someone who had reached the edge of what they could endure. Their chest tightens. They press the phone against their heart as though it could bring you closer. And this is where the thought enters fully. I lost them. Not because another person took you. Not because fate was cruel. Not because the connection was impossible. They believe they lost you because they did not meet love when love was standing in front of them. The realization brings another wave of tears. Yet inside that pain, the unexpected joy returns. Stronger this time. They remember that you once believed in them. Not the version of them that hid. The version beneath the fear. You saw courage in them before they used it. You saw tenderness in them before they showed it consistently. You spoke to the person they could become. Perhaps that was one reason they felt so drawn to you. You did not only make them feel loved. You made them feel possible. And now, for the first time, they wonder whether the transformation you believed in can still happen, even if they never receive another chance with you. That thought is new. For much of their life, change may have been motivated by fear, pressure, or the desire to avoid consequences. But now they feel a different call. To become honest because honesty is right. To become emotionally available because hiding has already cost too much. To heal because unhealed wounds do not remain contained, they spill into the hearts of innocent people. To learn how to speak before silence destroys what words could save. They may not know how to begin. But beginning has become necessary. The pain is no longer letting them stay asleep. And somewhere within the symbolic heaven of this story, there is a quiet recognition that the purpose of your connection may have always been larger than either of you understood. Perhaps you entered each other's lives not only to experience love, but to expose what needed healing before love could become sustainable. Perhaps the separation is not simply an ending. Perhaps it is a revealing. A season in which both hearts are being asked to grow separately so that whatever comes next, reunion or release, will no longer be built on illusion. This is where hope enters carefully. Not the kind of hope that promises a specific outcome. Not the kind that asks you to wait endlessly. A wiser hope. The hope that nothing sincere is wasted. The hope that love can transform even when it does not unfold according to our preferred timeline. The hope that your pain can become discernment. The hope that their regret can become responsibility. The hope that two people can be changed by one another without being chained to one another. And perhaps, if both hearts truly become ready, the story may still contain a chapter neither of you can yet see. But that possibility must remain hidden for now. Because before any reunion can be imagined, truth must finish its work. Your soulmate is still sitting with the phone. A message box is open. The cursor blinks. They begin typing. I know I may have no right to say this. They stop. Delete it. They try again. I have been thinking about you. Delete. Too small. Too ordinary. It does not hold the weight of what they feel. They type your name. Just your name. Then nothing. How does someone place an ocean inside a message? How do they explain months or years of fear? How do they tell you that losing you exposed parts of them they had avoided their entire life? How do they ask forgiveness without making forgiveness feel demanded? How do they say they love you when their past behavior made love feel absent? Their hands tremble. They lock the phone. Unlock it. Read your last message again. They are not ready to send anything. But they are closer than they have ever been to speaking honestly. And this is where another unseen movement occurs. While they wrestle with whether to reach out, you may be experiencing something of your own. A sudden memory. An unexplained heaviness. A dream. A feeling that a chapter is shifting, though your outer life appears unchanged. In fictional storytelling, emotional bonds often echo. Not as supernatural proof. Not as certainty. But as a poetic reflection of how deeply meaningful relationships remain present within memory. You may have tried to move forward. You may have told yourself you were done wondering. You may have rebuilt routines, returned to responsibilities, and learned to live without the answers you once believed you needed. But some nights, their memory still arrives. Not because you are weak. Because healing does not erase significance. You can outgrow the pain without pretending the love never mattered. You can choose yourself and still remember them with tenderness. You can create distance and still hope they become whole. Your heart is allowed to contain complexity. It can miss someone and refuse to return to the same pattern. It can forgive someone and still require proof of change. It can remain soft without becoming unprotected. This is part of your transformation. There was a time when you believed strength meant not feeling. Now you are learning that true strength is feeling without allowing every emotion to control your choices. You are learning to sit with longing without turning it into action. You are learning to hear hope without making it a promise. You are learning to let unanswered questions exist without sacrificing your peace to solve them. That is growth. And it is not small. Your soulmate senses, even without knowing the details, that you are changing. They can feel the difference in your absence. The silence no longer feels like someone waiting to be pursued. It feels like someone reclaiming their life. That is why they are afraid they lost you forever. They recognize that you may no longer be standing where they left you. They imagine you becoming happier. Stronger. More certain of your worth. They imagine someone else recognizing what they overlooked. The thought wounds them. But beneath jealousy is an even deeper sorrow. They know you deserve to be chosen clearly. They know you deserve consistency. They know you deserve a love that does not make you question whether it is real. And if they cannot become capable of offering that, a painful part of them knows they should not ask you to return. This is the most mature thought they have had about you. It is also the most heartbreaking. Because real love is not only the desire to possess someone. Sometimes it is the willingness to admit that they deserve more than the version of you they previously received. That admission brings them to their knees emotionally. They whisper something into the quiet room. Perhaps it is your name. Perhaps it is an apology. Perhaps it is a prayer. Not a prayer asking heaven to force you back. A prayer asking for the strength to become honest. Help me understand what I did. Help me change. Help me stop running. Help me accept the consequences of my fear. And if I am ever given one more chance to speak, help me speak the truth. The words feel unfamiliar. Vulnerability often does when it has been avoided for years. But they continue. They admit that they love you. Perhaps for the first time without bargaining with themselves, they admit that they were afraid. They admit that your closeness touched wounds they had tried to bury. They admit that instead of allowing love to help them heal, they treated love like a threat. They admit that they expected you to remain available while offering no certainty in return. They admit that they hurt you. There is no audience. No reward. No guarantee you will ever hear the confession. That is what makes it real. For once, they are not being honest to control an outcome. They are being honest because the lie has become unbearable. The atmosphere shifts again. Their tears do not stop, but the crying changes. Earlier, it was panic. Now it is release. Years of restrained emotion are moving through them. Grief for you. Grief for themselves. Grief for the younger version of them who learned to fear closeness. Grief for every relationship damaged by silence. Grief for every time they wanted love but acted as if they did not care. And then, beneath all of it, gratitude. Gratitude that you existed. Gratitude that you showed them what tenderness felt like. Gratitude that your love revealed the places within them that still needed light. This gratitude becomes the unexpected joy mentioned earlier. Not happiness that you are gone. Joy that the connection was real enough to change them. Joy that even in loss, love can point someone toward a better version of themselves. Joy that perhaps the story has not ended in meaning, even if it has ended in form. But something is still unresolved. The message remains unsent. Your soulmate remains uncertain whether contacting you would bring healing or harm. They do not know whether you would answer. They do not know whether your heart still holds a space for them. They do not know whether the future contains reconciliation, closure, or a final goodbye. And within you, there may be uncertainty too. Would you listen if they came honestly? Could you recognize genuine change? Would your love return, or has it transformed into something quieter? Would hearing their truth heal you, or reopen everything you fought to overcome? There are no easy answers. That is why this moment must not be rushed. The next chapter cannot be built from emotion alone. Emotion can awaken. But character must sustain. Tears can reveal regret. But actions must reveal transformation. Words can reopen a door. But consistency determines whether it remains open. Your soulmate is beginning to understand this. They know that one message cannot repair everything. One apology cannot erase every lonely night. One declaration cannot rebuild trust. If they reach for you, they must be prepared for patience. They must be prepared to hear your pain without defending themselves. They must be prepared to accept that you may need time. They must be prepared for the possibility that forgiveness does not lead to reunion. And most of all, they must be prepared to change without using you as the reward. That final requirement frightens them. Because a part of them still wants certainty. They want to know that if they do the work, they will get you back. But healing does not offer contracts. It asks for sincerity. Become honest because honesty matters. Become whole because your future matters. Become safe because the people you love should not bleed from wounds you refuse to treat. Whether you return or not, they must become different. This is the threshold before them. And soon, they will make a choice. The clock continues moving. The night deepens. The message box is opened once more. This time, they do not begin with an excuse. They do not blame timing. They do not mention circumstances. They do not try to sound impressive. They write something simple. I finally understand why you had to walk away. They stare at the sentence. Their eyes fill again. Then they continue. You were not asking me to be perfect. You were asking me to be present. Another sentence. And I made you feel alone while telling myself I was protecting us. They pause. The truth is painful, but it is clean. They write more. Not promises. Admissions. Not pressure. Responsibility. Not come back. But, I see what I did. For the first time, the message begins to sound like the person you once believed they could become. They read it from the beginning. Their thumb hovers over send. The distance between what has been written and what will be delivered is no more than a single movement. But that movement carries the weight of every unfinished conversation between you. They close their eyes. Your face appears in their mind. Not the face from your happiest memory. The face from the last time they saw your heart become tired. They remember the sadness you tried to hide. The moment you realized love alone might not be enough. The way you looked at them as if silently asking them to stop you from leaving. And they did nothing. That memory nearly destroys their courage. They wonder whether sending the message now would only serve their need for relief. They wonder whether the kindest thing is to leave you alone. They wonder whether silence has already said too much. So they place the phone down again. The message remains there. Unsent. Waiting. And in another place, perhaps you wake suddenly. Perhaps your heart feels strangely full. Perhaps you look toward your own phone, though no notification has appeared. You do not know that words are waiting on the other side of someone's fear. You do not know that the person who once struggled to express anything has written the most honest message of their life. You do not know that they are crying because they believe the chance to send it may already be gone. But the night is not finished. A final realization is moving toward them. One that will determine whether they remain frozen or finally take responsibility for the love they nearly lost. They are about to remember something you said long ago. A sentence they did not understand at the time. A sentence that will return with such force that it changes what they do next. Perhaps you said, "I never needed perfection. I only needed the truth." Perhaps you told them, "The silence hurts more than anything you could say." Perhaps, during one of your final conversations, you whispered, "One day you will understand that I was not asking you to chase me. I was asking you to meet me." At the time, they may have looked away. Tonight, those words return. And suddenly they understand. You did not leave because you stopped loving them. You left because staying required you to stop loving yourself. The realization sends another tear down their face. But now their hand reaches for the phone with a steadiness that was not there before. They open the message. They read the final line. Their thumb moves toward send. Then, just before it touches the screen, another notification appears. Not from you. From someone who knows both of you. A person whose name they did not expect to see at this hour. The message contains only a few words. But those words make their breath stop. They read them once. Then again. Their entire expression changes. Because what they have just learned about you means the situation is no longer what they believed it was. And before they can decide whether to send their confession, they realize that tomorrow may bring them face to face with the one truth they have feared most and the one possibility they never dared to hope was still alive.